Welcome to Viking Voices, the people of Princeton. I'm proud Superintendent Tom Burton, here today with my lovely co-host, Marielle Smith. Marielle, how you doing today?
I'm good, how are you?
Tremendous. And you know who's sitting right in front of us? Right in between us? Mr. Lockhart. He's the person that makes sure all of your devices are working each and every day, that you have access to your Google Classroom, all of that. How about that? He's a pretty big deal.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do anything without him.
That is true, Marielle. That's true. So I think, Mr. Lockhart?
Yes.
Basically, we're paying homage to you today, sir.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Okay. Hey, talk a little bit about technology and kind of what is the director of technology? That's what Mr. Lockhart's role is. What's the director of technology do, other than what I just said?
Well, it actually encompasses a lot. It changes constantly, but basically my job is to make sure that the students have what they need to be successful and the teachers have what they need to make sure the students are successful. So while I appreciate the accolades, my job should actually be minimized because I'm a tool provider, and that's what I do. The challenge, though, being a technology director, is a hammer, and the hammer stays the same for hundreds of years, but computers change every 2 to 3 years in the technology that supports it. So my job is, one person had the job title of futurist. And so at some point, I'm a futurist, and at another point, I'm a technician. So I need to make sure that the current technology is working, but have that forward thought to make sure that what's coming next, we're prepared for that and ready to integrate that into our curriculum.
Marielle, may I ask you how old you are, young lady?
I'm 17.
17 years ago. Mr. Lockhart, go back 17 years if you could think of that.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back. So the year was 2005 or 2006, depending upon what part of the time of the year.
Yes.
What exists now that didn't exist when Marielle was born?
The iPad.
The iPad. And it's every single day you use that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing. What else?
The iPhone.
The iPhone.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, both of those are fairly new technologies. We never had that much computing power in that small of a package. It was actually science fiction as opposed to science fact. Now, here's a little tip for you. The iPad was actually based on technology that was highlighted on Star Trek, the TV show.
One of your favorites.
One of my favorite. I'm a bit of a nerd. Sorry, he hates when I do that.
No, I don't. I don't dislike that, sir. I just don't understand it. Nanu or something. Yes. I don't know. That's Mork and Mindy, I think.
So when the doctor would come in, the doctor would have this little digital tablet that he would write on, and some of the great minds in technology said, "Wouldn't it be great if we can make that science fact and not just science fiction?" And that's where the idea of the iPad or the tablet was born.
Interesting. I remember as a young kid, 122 years ago, I know I'm really old, Marielle, but I remember watching Dick Tracy, the detective show. And I remember them going like this, talking into their phone or their watch, which seems science fiction, but now it's fact right now, huh?
Yes, yes.
What does the capabilities of iWatch, I mean, how much computing power is in there versus maybe a traditional computer 15 years ago?
Most of the technology that we have today has 2 to 10 times the computing power of entire computer systems from years ago. All of the technology that we have today, including our portable, is multiple times of the technology that they had available when they first put a man on the moon. So this is more powerful than the systems that put a man on the moon years and years ago. And so it's amazing the technology advances that have taken place where we've made technology smaller, more powerful. It's also interesting what's going on in the world of artificial intelligence, which is another topic that's now starting to impact schools, both at the K-12 level and collegiate level. Now you have artificial intelligence. You have robots, basically, that you can ask questions, and they can actually create research papers or essays for you based upon that. So it's this whole different...
Do not get any ideas.
Yes. So it's this whole and that's why I say part of the hat is the futurist,
Right.
because we have to stay up on these things in my profession to make sure that, first of all, if there are academic uses of them, we're making the best use of them. And then second, if it's going to cause challenges in our academic space, that we're aware of that and we can be proactive instead of reactive to these new technologies.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. I think 2007, I went to a conference. I heard Alan November, who literally was the world leading expert futurist, if you will, of technology. And I remember he talked about a beta, I believe it was 2007, it may have been 2011, sorry. But he talked about a beta version of what's called Wolfram Alpha. And that program, you type in whatever you wanted to, mathematics, it was all math at that point. And it actually would print out step by step how to get that answer. And I always thought, like, from a reverse engineering perspective, how important it would be for kids to be able to struggle trying to get a right answer, not getting it, knowing they don't get it, and then reverse engineer it by actually putting the equation into the program, and then it would spit it out. But the step by step. So technology isn't about always just getting the answer. It's also what?
It's about learning and understanding how to think, how to process, and how to find the answer. One of the interesting things is, again, back in the Stone Ages when I was in school, we had to memorize our math tables. Mm-hmm. And our teachers would always say, because you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket everywhere you go. Well, fast forward.
Guess what?
Everybody not only has a calculator, they have a powerful computer in their pocket that goes with them everywhere they go. And I'm going to kind of make a segue here with that. One of the other things that I think is a challenge, one of the things that Princeton has done with your support and with support from some federal funds, talking about having something with you all the time, is one of the things we focus on is connectivity for students. I think it's great that when the students are at the school, they have the computers, they have internet access, they have all those tools that are necessary. But we have students that when they go home don't have access to that connectivity and that technology. In our area, sometimes it's just a social economic issue. In other areas, the infrastructure is not there. And so they literally don't have connectivity at home. There's no access to cellular connectivity. There's no access to land connectivity. So there are new technologies that are coming out. Skylinks are some of them, and it's the satellite system. And so it's one of the things that we are really pressing on, not only for our students at Princeton, but as a nation, to make sure that our students have that connectivity, so that they really do have that calculator or that internet access wherever they go.
But certainly appreciate you being here. And when we were just sitting here talking right before, we were talking to Marielle, who actually is the lead in Cinderella. She's Cinderella. You want to give a quick plug? When's the musical?
The musical is going to be April 27th, 28th, and 29th.
And it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And what's your favorite song in that?
In My Own Little Corner.
And what's the purpose of that? I think this is really relevant for this conversation.
The purpose of the song is that you can be whatever you want to be when you're in your own little corner. And I know that most students, we have our own little corner, whether it be a place really in physical or a place just mentally.
Okay, or even on the computer.
Yeah.
There's the segue, right? So, we talk so much about what it means to kind of protect identity. I think everybody understands that, much more so now than ever before, I think. But also in terms of like the appropriate use of technology. So sometimes we know that kids may, and adults may, go to a computer to go and be in their own little corner, and perhaps, want to escape from reality, right? So what are some tips you have to make sure that people are doing so appropriately?
Yeah. The very first thing is assume that everything that you're doing on the computer, someone is watching. It is not from a sense of voyeurism, but just as a sense of your own protection. Because a lot of times, especially when you're on social media, obviously there are people watching. The other thing is avoid scams. Just like in the real world, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And for your age group, that's going to include things like free phones, emails and texts that say you want a free phone, or even meeting people online. You deal with what's called catfishing, that I'm sure you're familiar with that term. People pretending to be somebody online that they're really not for different nefarious means. So I would say those two things: assume that what you're doing is being watched by someone and being recorded. And then the other thing is always be cautious. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Very good. So, Mr. Lockhart, we certainly appreciate you being here. Marielle, do you have anything for Mr. Lockhart before he goes? What about that one app you were working on? That fake app that we were going to try to trick Mr. Lockhart?
Of course. Do you feel like it's harder when new apps come out to get children to be more focused on their schoolwork and not always be distracted by those new apps that come out? Or do you think that they're okay?
I think that's a great question. Being in technology, I'm not afraid of what's new. My only question is normally the why and not the what. There are so many great new technologies and applications that come out, both for the academic and just for entertainment. I think where we start to get into trouble is that some of the companies design these apps not to fulfill the promise of the app, but to try to get something more. We dealt with that with Facebook in the 2020 election cycle, where there was a lot of information that was being collected about the voters that the voters we didn't know. And that information was used against us to micro-target us or to influence us to think or act in a certain way. And so I think that's just the danger of some of the new applications, not that they are so much of a distraction for the students, because as a student, you're going to be distracted all the time. There's a world full of distractions. It's part of that learning process of learning how to focus. It's that some of these apps aren't designed to be in your best interest. It's just designed to add to the bottom line of the company.
Okay, and as we go to our next segment, I wanted to just brag about Mr. Lockhart for a second. There's a lot of things that happen in life, and sometimes one of those things is distraction, as Mr. Lockhart just talked about. You may get distracted from a goal that you have when you want to go to college, for instance, or you want to move jobs, or you want to move. There's a variety of things. Well, Mr. Lockhart, while at Princeton, finished his bachelor's degree and his master's degree and continues to learn every day. He's an unbelievable role model. And I think that he would say in technology as well as in life, the only constant is change. We'll be right back with Viking Voices, the people of Princeton.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to ICRC-TV Sports. That's going to be a ball game.
Princeton takes the match. Shot, goal! Brings it back with the 10-yard line. Touchdown, Vikings!
Welcome back to Viking Voices, the people of Princeton. We are here with legendary department chair, unbelievable conductor, maestro, Mrs. Kristen Brown. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. Princeton is, honestly, it's legendary music program. It really, really is. Has to be a big honor to be the department chair.
It is a great responsibility, and I do enjoy it.
We almost kind of could have started talking about Spider-Man right there. With great responsibility, right, or great power comes great responsibility. So, Mrs. Brown, there over the years, Princeton has existed. Like music has been one of the, big programs that really everybody talks about. Like when you talk about differentiating Princeton from another school, a lot of times you hear about music. So why is music so important?
I think that music is so important at Princeton because it is a large, comprehensive music department, and it reaches lots of kids in various different ways. So, not most schools have band and choir. Not all schools have orchestra. We also have orchestra. We also have curricular jazz. We also have several non-performing music options, like piano and guitar and music technology. So there are classes for any student to plug into and find success and some passion.
That's wonderful. And every single year, it seems like I'll get an email It'd be like, hey, guess what just happened? We just got another accolade. Best Communities for Music Education is an example. Will you talk a little bit about that and why would we be recognized for that?
So the Best Communities for Music Education is an annual application that you can fill out, and I think that we are selected year after year because we have a comprehensive music program, but the questions they ask aren't just about what happens in school, but also about what happens in the community. And so they ask questions about like what other opportunities are there for kids around the community. And in the Princeton community, there are several like musical arts centers, the Evendale Arts Center, there's one in Glendale, there's the Sharonville Fine Arts Center. So there's several, out in the community, which I think just all works together with the things that we do in the school as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it, we're really fortunate to have an unbelievable booster organization that helps. That certainly helped with the application, I'm sure.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about the boosters, why they're so important to you. And we know a big musician right here is Marielle too, so she's going to jump in and ask a couple questions as well.
Sure.
But booster organizations, why are they so important, specifically the Princeton Music Boosters?
So the Princeton Music Boosters are essential to what we're able to do because they are able to enhance everything that we do. So they enhance with funding, of course, for things. They recently won an award, which maybe you're going to ask me about, but one of the biggest things that our music boosters do is they provide private lesson music scholarships. So they are actually providing funding so kids can go get private lessons on instruments so that they can achieve at a higher level, and all of those scholarships benefit all of our programs because then we have inspired kids who are doing really well and are able to be examples for those around them and help all of our ensembles achieve at a high level.
Yeah, so Marielle, I don't know if you were ever a recipient of one of the scholarships, but I know that music is so central to your life. Let's put Mrs. Brown on the hot seat. Now it's your turn to flip the script. What do you want to ask her?
I know that personally for me, music has always been a passion, but not only that, but all my friends do it as well. How do you feel that it's important for not only kids to be able to connect with music, but also be able to connect with each other through music?
That is a great question, and that is where music excels. Music brings kids together in a community and a common project or a common goal. And back to your original question about why is Princeton music so essential or well talked about, because those relationships that are made in the a cappella choir or in the musical or in the marching band or in the orchestra, those relationships are lifelong relationships. And music kind of helps kids learn how to be kids with each other, learn how to develop those relationships in a positive setting, a positive way, and then to tie it all back into the music boosters. A lot of our music boosters are Princeton alumni, and they have positive memories from all the ways that they were involved back in school. So, you spend a lot of time together in music, right? If you're in the marching band, you have lots of rehearsal. If you're in the musical, there's lots of hours of rehearsal. So you're spending lots of hours with your friends or with other people. And I think lots of kids expand their friend base, right? So it's a good way to meet other kids and, be friends with other people that maybe, you didn't grow up with in your community, because Princeton draws all those communities together into one place. So,
it's interesting as you were talking about the boosters and their involvement, and that many of them have had these great experiences at Princeton. But I know the boosters that are watching right now are saying, I know Tom Burton's getting ready to say this. You didn't have a lot of musicians that are currently like in leadership positions way back in the day, or they may have done one or two things, but by and large, it's the music, it's the passion that they see. People want to be involved with winning organizations, with winning teams, with winning programs. And I love the fact that when I go out and I talk at Ohio School Board Association, and myself and other people were running down to make sure, because Guess what? Where there's 10,000 school board members, who's there? Princeton. What about Ohio Music Education Association too? When they have these big events with all these educators, who's there? Who's performing? That's right, Marielle, Princeton. And why do you think? And I know you, there could be a little bit of a redundancy in this answer, but that's okay. Why do you think that people consistently look at Princeton to go out and perform? Why are people asking us that in parades and programs over our breaks? Many times our kids are out and about. Why?
That's a hard question. Maybe it's an easy question. I think there's a strong history at Princeton, and we have relationships with OMEA and other places. And I think that people know that there is solid music education happening at Princeton, and that we're able to go out and represent in public performances. We're always going to be prepared for a public performance. We're always going to put our best foot forward. We're always going to look good, again, thanks to the music boosters, because they help with the our concert dress, our tuxedos, so our kids always look their very best when they're performing. And we put on a good show. So
you're very, very humble. And that you represent that whole department. Everyone has great humility there. But I'm going to say this. I think one of the reasons, on top of everything you mentioned, the performance, the level, it's unbelievable. And myself, and Mrs. Stollard, and Mrs. Roddy were standing out in the cold listening to our a cappella or part of the VCE as they were performing. And Marielle, you were there. You want to talk a little bit about that, what you did over the winter break?
Yeah, so we did our Sharonville in the Loop. We did that concert, and it was just a lot of fun to do because after that we got to hang out with one another. But I think what's even better with that is that all the kids are so passionate about it because we stay after school and do our rehearsals and we put in the extra mile. And it's not just because we love music, but it's also because we love our teachers and love one another.
It's not surprising that when you perform, you guys are unbelievable, right? And when Mr. Dindler said, the only time it was bad, I have to be honest with you, the last song when he said a sing-along, and unfortunately I started singing. Then it got really, really bad. But I mean, so amazing, so on point, and people all over the place just kept, man, they sound so good, they sound so good. And I think that's something that event over event, day over day, we get better. And I don't think there's any greater example than Aunt Rhodey's play. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Aunt Rhodey's Appetite
Yes.
is our first performance for our beginning 6th grade band and orchestra kids. And, at that point in mid-October, they only know 5 notes, and they're, really beginner learners. So to put the little script in play with the songs that they can play with 5 notes just makes it a great event for the kids and their parents, instead of just hearing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and going home. So it's just our way of giving it a little flair, helping the kids feel important and feel like they're a part of something special.
So 2 quick things. The end of the year concert in middle school. Marielle, do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. The end of the year, it's unbelievable because almost every single year that I've been here, when the music teacher is getting ready to talk about the improvement, you could feel and hear the emotion. And I think when you have that passion day after day, I mean, you're gonna get great results because it's not just about the teaching time or whatever, it's what happens after. So many times I'll see you in the music room very late, sometimes really early, and I appreciate you answering the call over the weekends when I happen to bug you there too. But we know it takes a lot of people to get this done. Obviously, you talked about the great teachers that are there that help support the kids. But the Boost organization, let's go back there. They got a big award, I believe, recently, and it was pretty amazing. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so the Ohio Music Education Association have named has have named the Princeton Music Boosters as the Outstanding Music Support Group for 2022. And they will be recognized with a luncheon at the State Music Conference in Columbus in February, and then be presented their award at a general session, which actually has thousands and thousands of people attending. So it's a pretty big deal, and I'm very proud to have Princeton be represented.
Yeah, and at the time of this airing, we're probably going to be just past the Booster Bash.
Actually, they get their award February 4th, and the Booster Bash is February 11th. So we're going to come back after that and have the Booster Bash.
Yeah. So we won't. So the people that are watching, unfortunately, you won't be able to get the Booster Bash. But there's always a way to be able to help support, and I think you could look right to your right, left, up, or down, and you're going to see a QR code here in a little bit, and you'll be able to just point your phone there, look at that, and get more information about the Music Boosters, as well as Princeton Music, and an opportunity to donate if you so choose.
So the Booster Bash is celebrating 65 years of the Music Booster organization. So it's a pretty great history, pretty great Princeton history, and there will be some guest speakers, some former music teachers that are coming back to tell stories. So anyway, it'll be pretty special.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing evening. Really excited about that. Marielle, one last opportunity to pay back Mrs. Brown for all the hours of work that you have to do. One last question from you.
So I know that you said you have big ties with the OMEA and a lot of things like that, but also tonight is senior recital for our seniors, and I know that we're really excited about that. Why is it important to highlight students who have been in music for so long and have been working really, really hard?
So the senior solo recital is for students who are performing an OMEA Class A solo at contest on Saturday. We have this special, this is a special senior event for our very top music kids who are playing at that level. So it's a high achievement kind of recognition. And it's a special night. It's kind of a dress rehearsal for them before they have to go play in front of a judge. They can perform here in front of friends and family on our home turf in Matthews Auditorium and dress up, and we have a little reception for them afterwards. So we consider it a special senior recognition, but also it really is a good example to all of our younger kids, these kids that are achieving at the very highest level, and it's going to be great.
Mrs. Brown, I'm not opposed to put people on the hot seat. I'm really not intentionally doing this. But is that going to be recorded? I know we typically record everything with music, but is that one not recorded?
I will make sure that it gets recorded.
Okay. And the only reason why I say that is because when you check out the QR code, and perhaps you may Google and learn a little bit more about our unbelievable music program with all the tremendous offerings, you're going to be able to see performance after performance that we have there. We have a beautiful YouTube page where you're going to be able to see, again, all the performances, including Marielle Smith as Cinderella. You're going to be able to see that on our Princeton Vikings YouTube channel. Well, Mrs. Brown, thank you so much for joining us. We love music. It's awesome. And I think it's only appropriate. Do you want to sing? Do you want to start singing the song that we made up for Mrs. Brown? You ready? Mrs. Brown, you're the best. You are better than all the
rest.
There you go. Mrs.
Well
Brown,
done,
everybody.
well done.
Hey, we'll
Thank
be right
you.
back to Viking Voices, the people of Princeton.
On air or online, this is media for your community. This is ICRC-TV.
Welcome back to Viking Voices, the people of Princeton. And I have to tell you, the first two segments were unbelievable. Marielle was just talking about that. But this one, wait till you meet this young lady, Senior Soleil Williams. Soleil, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and you know what, Soleil, let's get right into this. Marielle is going to kick us off.
So first question we're going to start with is, what do you like the most about Princeton?
I would probably say the support system due to like sports and the sports, grade-wise, teachers always willing to help. We have after school help with work, if you need extra help with sports, we have a lot of staff coming to support. We have a student section that we're trying to build. Just everyone just supporting each other to just make the culture way better for Princeton.
So it kind of sounds like it's like a family.
Yes. Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally, yes.
Yeah, as you talked about the support and everybody coming together and all that stuff. Hey, not to bring up something bad, but we did have, I think, one of the largest crowds that we've had for a long, long time, and a very tough loss that we had, lost by 1. But we're going to get them the 3rd time, right?
Yes.
Okay, you heard it here first. We're going to get them. All right, so Soleil, obviously you're a student first.
Yes.
But I think people would know who you are. They know the name. Nominated for All-American, McDonald's All-American, nominated for Gatorade Player of the Year. Unbelievable stats and all that. But we talked before. You remember when we did that little fun video?
Yes.
Yes, it took us like 12 takes. It was awesome though. So they talk a little bit about the value of being on a team.
Okay, the value of being on the team would probably just be the culture, of course, and just everyone playing their part to all come together to be a team. Everyone has to play their part, do what they have to do, be committed, and also be supportive when your time's not up, of course. But just making sure you build that family culture, it makes everyone more comfortable to want to play for each other and do all of the little things, and that just brings everyone together.
Soleil, and I'm going to admit something. Boy, this goes way, way, way back. Okay, I played basketball, and I remember when I was in college, I passed the ball, and I got benched for passing the ball because my role was to shoot and score. And back then, I remember saying, but Dave Timko is his name. He was wide open underneath, right? And the coach says, that's not your role. But I was always a little bit uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
So you're averaging 20 whatever points, all kinds of rebounds, assists, steals, and whatever. What is your favorite part of like that stat line? So what do you look to first in that stat line?
I would probably say getting my teammates involved, the assists. That's a major part in my game, is getting my teammates involved. I know how to get them their shots that they are comfortable with, like the bigs, getting them the passes they need in the right spots, the shooters, the passes they need in the right spots. But that's probably my major role. And of course, coming after that is probably getting to the rack for myself and getting things that I need for myself.
Right, that's excellent. Marielle?
So I just have one question. When you are doing, I know that you're very, very busy all the time because you're just always doing something. So what's the importance of teachers being understanding in the fact that you are as busy as you are?
That's very important. A lot of my teachers are very understanding. They know that right after school I have practice and I have to come home and do work. So when it comes to me like struggling, they're willing to give me some extra help in class or even after school when we have some time. But yeah, that's very important, honestly, to a lot of athletes, because I feel like a lot of athletes can agree to what I'm saying as well. They're always busy with sports and family things and stuff like that. So just being understanding is just very helpful and a relief.
All right, so I know you're always who you are, you're always real. I know we talked about that before. So when you talk about understanding, I think sometimes maybe some people that are watching right now will confuse understanding with lowering expectations.
Yeah, no.
But we don't, your hands are that quick. We are not lowering any expectations. So talk about expectations, why it matters so much that people hold students and athletes accountable and have high expectations.
I feel like because that brings out the better in a person. Having them being held to a higher standard will also help that person for future references and just building the person as a older woman or man and just creating them as a whole. And you know, you have to be held to higher expectations, because if you're held to lower expectations, you're not going to succeed. So that's what we want, is to succeed and be the best that we can be.
It's not always easy, though. I know Marielle feels the same way. Marielle, right? Like when people like have high expectations, you're like, I just need a break, right?
Yes.
Maybe in practice, and Cinderella. You're like, oh my goodness, I just don't want to sing that one more time, but you have to, right? That's really important. All right, well, let's get down to the nitty gritty here and talk about the future, young lady.
Okay.
So, Texas A&M,
Yes.
the Aggies. Okay, so why choose going all the way down to College Station in Texas?
I think that it was just the perfect fit for me. I had that gut feeling when I took my official visit that that's where I see myself being. That was the atmosphere I could see myself being around. Although it is far away from home and my family, I feel like that could also build me as a person and as a whole to learn things on my own. Because I am, like right now, my parents do cater to me a lot and stuff like that. So I feel like me just being able to be on my own a little bit will build me as a character as well.
That's excellent. Soleil, how many college offers? And even if people just call and say, hey, we're going to offer you, how many did you get?
I would probably say like 35 plus.
35 plus. We're not talking about small schools, Mario. So just name a few, just for the heck of it.
I would probably say Louisville. Well, not probably say, but
Yep.
Louisville, Florida, Florida State, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi State, North Carolina.
So maybe some people have heard of those schools. Maybe, I'm not so sure. Hey, we've had a great time talking to you. Certainly appreciate you coming in. Marielle, do you have anything else, or are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, there's only one way to end this episode. First of all, it's been amazing. Marielle, again, unbelievable, thought-provoking questions every single time. Amazing, Marielle. Thank you so much for joining us again. But we're ending with the very, very best part of Princeton, and that's our students. I think far too often sometimes when you look and you define a school district, people do that artificially. They may do that with a performance, academic performance. They may look at it if you win a state championship or not, and that may define an entire school. You saw today that we're much, much more than just any type of academic accomplishment, which, by the way, in the entire state, there's 847 public schools and charter school networks. Out of 847, we were number 11 in the entire state on student growth. That means there's only 10 other school districts that grew our kids more. And you heard it here from Soleil. She talked specifically about the help, the support, the nurturing, the high expectations. That's what we have to have. We had one great episode with Mr. Lockhart. We had first great episode with Mr. Lockhart. Second great segment with Mrs. Brown. It was amazing. And the third, like a three-pointer, baby. Three-pointer, look at that form. Soleil, come on, that's some good form right there. We ended it with a basketball star, superstar, but more than that, a superstar person. Thanks so much for joining us in Viking Voices, the people of Princeton. We'll see you again real soon.